So I have in front of me my bodice, and I've got my darts marked here and here. So this one is a fairly standard side dart going towards the bust. Not too wide, not too narrow. This one though at the waist is a really wide dart, and this is a dart that I'm going to slash in a moment. But what I want to do first is show you how I stitch darts and finish them and then press them. So I'm going to work on these two darts. Now, do you remember in the last lesson I told you about tacking down the centre? So I'm going to fold it, my fabric, along that tack line. I've got all my ends of threads here, so I know that's the point. And I'm going to pop a pin in. I've got my fold line, so now I'm going to put another pin at the end. So I'm going to make sure it goes in one side and comes out on the line the other side. And I'm just going to pin it in line with the tacks or basting stitches. Check it on both sides. And I'm going to do the same with this great big dart here. So find a pin. And I always use pearl-headed pins. They're easy to pick up, and you can find them if you leave them in your work or drop them on the floor, especially if you've got pets or children at home. The pearl-headed pins are really useful. So pop a pin at the point of the dart, fold it along that nice fold line, pop another pin at the waist edge, going through the basting stitches on one side and on the other, and back in and out. And because this is a really long dart, I'm going to put another pin halfway. So there and there. Put my pin in. Now I'm ready to sew. So my machine is all set up. I've got a stitch length of about 2.2, 2.4, which for a dart is a good length. Now, I start my darts by sewing at the point. Most people start at the fat end of the dart, but I've always started to sew at the point, because what I've discovered is so many people will start at the fat end of the dart, and as they start to reach the point, they sort of wobble off course, or they'll bend in to hit it, or they'll overshoot it. The point of the dart is the most important place, because it's there the fullness is. So I'm going to start sewing on the point. And a little trick is if you half put your needle down manually and then push the point of the dart, you can see where your pin is, onto that needle, and then lower your presser foot and turn the handle or the balance wheel manually so your needle is right on the very edge. I can take that pin out now, it's served its purpose. And keeping my long tails at the back, I can stitch now quite happily to the other end, and I know I'm on course. And I'm no reversing at the ends. Lift my foot and pull out and snip off. So there is my dart stitched, and I've got long tails here. But what I can do now is pull out my tacking stitches. Remember when we put these in, these were just straight threads, and they should, in theory, pull out really quickly. And because we haven't got any knots in the thread, they shouldn't damage the fabric. So there's my dart. And I would finish this dart off the same way as I finished my seam on the previous sample. Because both ends are right on the edge of the fabric, I can just tie a little knot. And I can thread those in a moment into a needle and thread them back. But what I'm going to do now is this big dart. So again, pull my threads to the one side so I can see them. My pin is right on the point. I'm going to turn my balance wheel so the needle goes down almost in. Push my needle to my pin. Turn it once by hand. My needle's in the work. Take out my pin and machine. sliding out my pins as I get to them. I always use a pin cushion. I find them really useful. Saves having pins all over the place. And it keeps your pins nice and clean as well. So there's my big dart. If the dart was coming out of this part of the bodice, this way at an angle, it'd be known as a French dart. And it would be just a little bit wider than this one. So these are both really big darts. Same again, I can take out my tacking stitches. If you have some thread tweezers, they're really useful. I'm sure you've seen these before. These are thread tweezers. They're really strong. The ends actually meet. If you can't find thread tweezers, a good set of eyebrow tweezers is just as good. But you can get these right under your stitches and they just pull out. Especially if they've got caught in some of the machining. Because these really grab hold of thread and pull. And do it on both sides. All those lovely tacks we spent so long putting in a moment ago have served their purpose. And again, I'd knot that off and then stitch it back in.